I asked a question about the last Way Viaduct.
Yeah.
You support the Board Tunnel.
I do.
And I was looking at a report on the capital improvement plan for Seattle transportation through 2014, and I added up all different capital projects.
You're the one. You're the guy.
I'm the one.
You're the guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I heard there was one.
There's like a special bell that went on at City Hall. I was like, oh my god.
I know. Yeah.
So I'm all embarrassed now. And you add them up, and it's roughly $930 million. In that ballpark, which is, as you know, what Greg Nichols has pledged to spend out of city funds for all the different components of the tunnel project. And I was just shocked to say, my God, citywide, our capital investments over the next 5 years or so are the equivalent of this one project.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, help explain to me how the tunnel just isn't sort of a black hole sucking money from the rest of our investments, or how a desire to invest in our entire transportation infrastructure isn't sort of imperiled by this 1 2-lane or 2 mile long tunnel.
We get into, in Seattle politics, we often get into these, I think, what I consider to be false dichotomies of it's this or that. It's we've seen this in the blogosphere this week in relation to my race. It's either density or trees, or it's downtown or the neighborhoods. And I don't think we can afford as a community to say it's either or. We need to be doing both. The tunnel is and knitting together the downtown community with the waterfront and building a surface kind of circulation and a surface transit option that actually works to move folks around downtown. All of that is going to be expensive. I can guarantee you if we had done it 10 years ago when we started talking about this, it would have been less expensive. I guarantee you if we had built transit, light rail 30 years ago in, 1968 when forward thrust didn't pass, it would have been less expensive. It's only going to get more expensive if we continue to put it off. I look at the tunnel option as being a long-term solution. If we are making a solution that gets us through 20 years, and in 20 years we are sitting around this table having the same conversation again, we have royally failed. And it will be a personal failure of every person in this room and every person in the city. And if we're still discussing this in 20 years, we need to be making a solution that gets us through 50 years, that gets us through 100 years. It's going to be expensive. Infrastructure is expensive, and protecting our economic engine, downtown and the industrial zone and the economic engine, I think is important. And it's important to balance that with the needs of the neighborhoods. I fully recognize that there are parts in North Seattle that have been waiting for sidewalks since the 60s, since they were annexed many, many, many years ago. And we need to start moving forward on that. But we've put off all infrastructure investments for far too long. For the past 10 years, we've come out of 10 of the most prosperous years in our city's history. And we didn't do the job. We didn't do the job. And now we're going into some hard times, and now we have to make those infrastructure investments. I fully recognize that it's going to be expensive. My job, what I do at King County, is try and figure out how to make large infrastructure less expensive, how to partner, how to bring in leverage what revenue we do have to make it give again and again. So for example, I'm currently building $50 million worth of parks facilities and doing it by spending $9 million of public money. An example of this is in White Center. I have a 40-acre park in White Center. It's called Lakewood Park. It's very nice. It has a little lake in the middle, as you would get by the name Lakewood Park. And it's bordered by middle school and elementary school. It's consistently hit with crime, consistently hit with drug use, prostitution. Last year we pulled a live bomb off of a park bench in broad daylight. And this park needs a full-time steward at it. And we don't have the money for a full-time park steward at this park and permanent staff to be at this park. What we did have is a grant program for community partnership grants. So I'm working with an organization called the Technology Access Foundation. Do you guys know TAF? Technology Access Foundation. It was started by a former Microsoft employee to teach kids of color and kids in South Seattle math and science and computer skills. And they have a phenomenal track record. 100% of the kids that go through a program go on to college, and most of them get scholarships. And I'm giving TAF $2 million. They're raising $15 million. And then they're going to build a state-of-the-art community center. It's going to be LEED platinum building. In fact, 15% of it is going to be built out of salvaged materials from the deconstruction of the housing project that's next door. So from Park Lake Homes deconstruction. And they're going to build a $15 million community center, which then they're going to operate for the next 30 years. It will have full-time security presence. It'll serve the kids in that community. It's a $2 million investment, and the public gets $15 million plus 30 years of operations of value from it.
Those sound great, but for the tunnel, those don't sound like congruent examples, because you're proposing a $1 billion investment into cars and automobiles versus, $100 million and getting another $900 million or something, versus investing in a public transportation system or more bike lanes.
There are types of projects that need to be managed in a traditional sense. Road projects are some of those projects. But there are a lot of projects that don't need to be managed in a traditional sense, and where we can partner and leverage what revenue we have. The surface improvements along the waterfront and the rebuilding of the park and the public space along the waterfront, and if there's public space that goes up Bell Street, is a perfect example of where a partnership can help develop that public space. We spend lots of capital dollars. I know I work in the county and follow pretty closely how we spend our capital dollars and how the city spends their capital dollars. And there is room for leveraging in many projects that we do, which then frees up revenue for the projects that need to be run in a traditional way. You're right. Doesn't make sense, and I should have been clear. It doesn't make sense to build a tunnel with a public-private partnership, and I am by no means suggesting that. But there are a lot of projects that we do where we could be more strategic, and we could bring in other types of revenue, not even necessarily other types of private revenue, but other types of public revenue. We just went through a budget cycle where in the state legislature they none of the stimulus package dollars for transportation projects came to Seattle. We had nobody from our city council lobbying for our city to receive, our city, which is the economic engine of the state, to receive any of that transportation money. And we missed an opportunity there.